Hello and welcome to the Money Show, your one-stop destination for all your personal finance queries. I am Kavita Thapliyal, and today we have a power-packed show where we are going to talk about your rental income. We are going to talk about how can the 40-year-olds do their financial planning going ahead. And in our last leg, we'll be throwing upon the counter to get your mutual fund portfolio queries answered. So do send us your queries on our WhatsApp number, which is 865-797-4571. You can also send us your queries on the Money Show at etnow.tv. So that we have a strong lineup of topics today, which will help you plan your finances better. But then let's get to the top headlines of the hour. Nifty gains over 150 points off day's low to close above 19,700. Pharma index is the top sectoral gainer. Anticipate more risk in global market. That's the word coming in from Aditya Birla Sun Life AMC's Mahesh Patil. He also says IT sector is likely to see a bounce back. SEBI is considering the possibility of introducing the concept of fractional shares in India. ET now learns from sources that the market regulator may soon hold consultation with government on the issue. Byju's set to slash thousands of jobs. Sources say the new India CEO is undertaking a massive restructuring exercise, which he aims to complete in a few weeks. GST Council likely to consider lowering tax to 12% on health insurance, especially for senior citizens. The next GST Council meet is on October 7th. All right, so let's begin. A lot of Indians depend heavily on their PF money, and when they get it, they invest that money in real estate. And the only logic behind that is one extra income, because after retirement, the only source of income for most Indians is the rental income. So what's the reason behind this mindset? What exactly can be your strategy when it comes to rental income? And is rental income a good source of your second income? Let's consider all of these things. I have Nehal Mota, co-founder Innovate, with me to discuss more on this. Nehal, good evening and welcome to the show. So we are considering two kind of scenarios. One is of people who are retired and using their PF money to get a constant or regular source of income via rent. Okay. The other aspect of this particular discussion is having rental income as a source of your second income. So let's the first aspect, where we are dealing with retirees who prefer that whatever money they get from their PF after retirement, they want to invest it in real estate and then maybe get rental income as a source of the regular income. What is the mindset behind this, and why this concept, and does it really work?
Good evening, Kavita, and thank you for inviting me on the show once again. Like you said, that PF is one big portion of a retired person's, income, like that lump sum corpus which they get. Generally, in India, we have this mindset and a preference towards physical assets, whether it is real estate or whether it is gold. We have this affinity towards physical assets, and we believe that the physical assets not only give us capital appreciation, but something like a real estate also give us a regular rental income. And that is the reason we are inclined towards real estate. Having said that, real estate has its own challenges in terms of there is a very big amount of money which you need to put upfront to buy a real estate. The rental income, which they feel is like a good second source of income in real estate, the rental yields, whether it is metro or the smaller cities, is anywhere between 3 to 5%. With that rental yield, you also have to pay property taxes, maintenance, and whatever income is left, the net income, again, you pay income tax on that. So the yield drops to less than 3%. And so, the retired people should really reconsider putting their entire EPF money into buying a real estate, in the hope of getting a good rental income.
All right. But also talking about rental yields, do you think it's kind of a fair deal to have that money invested in real estate? I mean, I get the concern of, putting your money into a safe haven asset. And for a lot of Indians, real estate is that particular aspect of safe haven, or, they want to safeguard the money, the lifelong savings or earnings that they have got in the form of PF. But then can this be planned better? And do we really need real estate when it comes to parking all your lifetime funds? And if you want to get regular income out of it, you might just want to consider a different investment instrument?
Kavita, with the retirement fund, if we have to list down the objectives, your first objective is to get regular cash flow. The second objective is capital protection. The third objective is that the investments need to be tax efficient. And the fourth and the biggest aspect for a retired person is liquidity. Okay, so if we were to look at real estate on these four aspects, when it comes to liquidity, once you invested in a real estate property, a very big amount of money, it's not very easy to liquidate it. It's not as tax efficient, like we said, that the income is taxed at your tax slab rate. The third thing which we discussed, the rental yields are low. Okay, and so maybe if you consider more options like just a hybrid investment portfolio where 70 to 80% can be parked in debt instruments, long-term bonds, which in the current market with the high interest rates are giving you anywhere between 7 to 7.5%. Even post-tax, they are giving you returns which are as high as 5.5%. Together with it, 20 to 30% can be into hybrid funds, or it could be into index funds, large cap index funds, which can give you that capital appreciation which you expected from real estate. So generally, people look at real estate because apart from getting that rental income, they are also, looking at some capital appreciation. So that capital appreciation plus an income can actually be taken care of with a 70-80 debt plus 20-30 equity kind of a combination. So it meets your capital appreciation requirement. The equity grows over a period of time, and the debt component gives you that regular income, more tax efficient income. And with this current high interest rates, in case if interest rates were to head southward, there is also a chance of capital appreciation on this long-term government bonds. So the retired people should look beyond real estate and rental income as options to invest.
Exactly. Also, the other scenario that I wanted you to consider here was having rental income as a second source of income. Not necessarily that a retiree needs to plan that way, but even someone who's investing heavily or maybe has a investment portfolio and for diversification as an asset class as real estate. Do you think rental income can be a way Sorry?
So Kavita, real estate also, I would say there are two pluses. One is that the rental income which you get, it is inflation adjusted. Generally, the rental, like appreciation is about 8 to 10% annually, whereas inflation currently is in the range of 6-7%. So the rental income is a good hedge to inflation. That is one positive when it comes to real estate. And in a country like ours, which is like a very large working population who are still to buy houses and all, in this kind of a market, you can expect a decent
Nehal,
appreciation also.
Nehal, the question over here is, should you be considering it as your second income? Because a lot of time, it's also advisable, especially the kind of times we are living into, scenarios that we are into, depending just on your salary is not a great idea. You need to have an investment portfolio, and for a lot of people, it's very important that you upgrade and update your skills. And when you do that, you also need to start looking at having a second income. Do you think rental income can be that part of your second income, is what my question was.
Yeah, so answering that question, that first thing is that you consider your overall asset allocation. Equity and real estate are growing assets, and your debt and your gold are capital preservation assets. So definitely, while you are young and you're trying to build multiple sources of income, you should be invested in equity and real estate, which are growing assets. Once your need for the primary house is done, once you are saving enough for your key goals, retirement, kids' education, in case if you're in that age bracket, and if you have any surplus, then you can look at real estate as one of the options where you put in an investment and you're looking at the rental income. And like I said, that if I were to talk about advantages, the rental income which you get is inflation adjusted because the rent grows in proportion or a little more than the inflation. And second is that you also stand a chance of capital appreciation. So if you have your overall asset allocation in mind, where you know, okay, this is my investment which will go towards growing asset, a small portion will go towards capital preservation given the age and the life stage, you can consider real estate as an option for rental income. But having said that, I did discuss the cons initially, that the rental yield is lesser, post tax it's not very efficient, and you have to maintain the property. You will have to make expenditure every 2-3 years to paint and to redo the property to be actually make it eligible for rentals. And also you stand a risk that there could be periods where property has not gone on rent, so that will be
Right.
purely an income loss and that will drop the yield.
Right, exactly. All right. On that note, thank you so much, Nil, for being on the show and helping our viewers with all aspects of understanding how they can have rental income and we make it as their second source of income as well. But then we'll slip into a short break. Post that, we are going to have a detailed discussion with Mrin Agrawal on how can a 40-year-old figure out their financial plan, or the kind of financial plan that you need to done before you get 40. All of this and more after this break. Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show with me, Kavita Thapliyal, and let's move on. And a very important topic, things that you should do before you turn 40. And here, I mean financial planning that you need to do or get done with before you turn 40. To discuss more on this, I have with me Mrin Agrawal, founder, director, FinSave. Mrin, good evening and welcome to the show. So a lot of these topics, you can see it on social media, on your Instagram, on your Twitter, so and so things to do before you turn 20 and things to quit before you turn 30. So I think, I just got inspired by that, and so let me give you a task to list down the things that one should do before they turn 40 in terms of their financial planning. A very crucial age, okay, Mrin, where you are in the middle of a lot of things. You are in the middle of a lifestyle where you have reached a certain level. You have a certain pattern of living. You have reached a certain stage in your professional life. Maybe you are planning for a second inning. You are at a stage where also you are, either almost completing your financial goals like your kids' education, or maybe paying off your home loan, or somewhere in the middle of completing these goals, okay? And you need to also start planning for your retirement. So 40 being a very crucial age, what all actually changes for you financially? Also talking about the way you think about life and the way you want to live your life going on 20 years ahead. What are the things that one should really go back and think before they turn 40 or are almost about to reach that age?
Okay, the first three are really checking about basics, right? So good evening, Kavita, and thank you for having me on the show. And I think, the first thing is that, you always need to check, do I have all my basics in place, right? So, I think the basics as far as anybody's financial life is going to be to say, do I have that right amount of emergency cash? And do I have the right amount of life and health insurance? Because remember that, your family size might have increased, your circumstances might be different. Also, as you mentioned, lifestyles change so much every 4 to 5 years. So, keeping in line with your lifestyle, do you have the right amount of emergency cash, life and health insurance, right? Now, of course, you're planning for, a lot of people want to retire at 50. So if you're 35 today and you need to reach that number, you need to be doing some really serious planning, which means that you also need to be having some really serious savings, right? So then the next question is that, are you saving at least 30 to 40% of the take home? I do a lot of sessions, and generally I see that the average savings number is about 20-25%. And very, very few people actually are able to reach this 30-40% number, right? So I think, that is what one really needs to check. What is the number that one is at, and make the course correction accordingly. The third thing that you need to also check, which is interlinked to the amount of savings that you're doing, is to check where are you on loans, right? Especially unsecured loans, because unsecured loans, of course, affect your credit score. Unsecured loans are really expensive. I mean, remember, your income is not increasing even at the pace at which, at the interest rate that you're paying for a personal loan, right? So, or a credit card loan, right? So obviously you need to ensure that somewhere by the time you reach 40, the only loan that you probably have is the home loan, and you're really, cleared off all of your other loans. So I would say that these are like some fundamental things that you need to have in place before you turn 40, and these are the first three.
All right, so very important. I think you covered the major part of the discussion just in your first answer, but I really want you to elaborate as to how can one achieve this, okay? Because you need to get your basics right, definitely. But what if you have not reached there yet? So how can we just go one by one? Let's just talk about liabilities first, things that you should be, financial liabilities that you should just be, done with.
Hopefully nobody will have an education loan by that age, but
yeah,
for example, given the fact that that's the time you start a family, people do tend to take a lot of, let's say, buy now, pay later, or credit card loans for a vacation, or personal loans, right, for marriage and all that, right? So clearly, these are expensive loans that you need to look at. You need to draw up a plan. First of all, it really means that you need to go on a complete financial detox, spending detox especially, and you need to be trying and saving as much as possible so that you can look at repaying off these particular loans. There's really no other way around it.
All right. Also, that being said, what about those people who plan an early retirement, or maybe want to come up with something on their own, or plan a second income when they are 40? I think this really needs certain amount of thinking and, introspection in terms of your life going ahead, your finances, also the kind of financial responsibilities you have on you. How can one go about it?
So I think the first thing is to have a financial planner in place. And I do truly believe that that's also one of the fundamental things that one needs to have, which is have a financial plan written for yourself with the help of a financial planner. And because, on your own, what happens is a couple of things. And, here is the next few things that you really need to start thinking about is, have you actually made your financial goals, right? And is it, are the goals defined properly, right? So, just to give you an example, what happens is that somebody has a goal that I want to save for my child's education, and they feel ki, okay, based on today's cost levels, I think I need about 20 lakh rupees. But actually what happens is that they don't take into account inflation, right? And with inflation, that amount 10 years down the line is actually going to be 35 lakh rupees, right? So what happens is that they actually end up investing the wrong amount. So I feel it's really important that, point number 4 and 5 be that, you need to ensure that you have thought about your goals very clearly and taken inflation into account when you are saving for those goals. Now, coming to retirement, right? So again, the earlier that you start saving for retirement, the better it is, because the amount that you need to invest is going to be lower, right? So let's take an example of a person who is having expenses of 1 lakh rupees per month. Okay. And let's say this person is 35 and wants to retire at 60. Now, at the age of 35, this person needs to invest 1 lakh rupees, right? If we take into account inflation at 6% and return on investment as simple 8%, which you'll get in your EPF, right? But if you delay this investment by 10 years, so if you don't start at 35, but you actually start at 45, then the amount that you have to invest is much higher. It's around 1,65,000 rupees, right? So I think, after getting these basics in place, you have to really focus on your financial goals to see that, have you set your goals correctly? Have you taken inflation into account while investing for these goals? And of course, it goes without saying that you really need to start investing early, right? The next thing would then be to see that where are you going to invest, right? Now, for example, the recent data came out, right? Which actually the household savings data came out, which showed that I think the equity allocation that households have is still less than 10%, right? Which means that on a majority of investments that they're doing, if we exclude real estate, right, on a majority of investments that people are doing, they're actually not beating inflation, right? So I think one more thing is to go and check two things. One, is my portfolio actually beating inflation or not? And for that, what you need to do is that you need to put down each asset class in your portfolio with the estimated that you're getting, and please take conservative estimates and the percentage allocation. So like, for example, I have given an example where, let us say if you have 10% allocation to equities and you've got 60% allocation to fixed deposits, maybe 20% in insurance schemes, and 10% in the employee provident fund. And typically, this is what I see of most people, that 90% of financial assets will be in fixed return instruments, and only 10% is going to be in equities. So in this case, your return is working out to 6.4%, which means it's not really beating inflation. Right. So I think one of the very important things to do early on is to ensure that wherever you are investing, the portfolio as a whole actually needs to be able to beat inflation. And
Right.
for you need to have a good amount
Right.
of the allocation.
All right, so one has to really keep in mind the kind of allocation and the kind of changing financial status, and also if you have financial liabilities or responsibilities on you. Thank you so much, Min, for being on the show today and helping our viewers with this. On that note, let's take a quick break, but then post that, we'll be talking to our viewers and getting their mutual fund portfolio queries checked by Shweta Jain after this break. Welcome back. You're watching The Money Show with me, Kavita Thapliyal. There are a plethora of funds available in the market to invest your hard-earned money in, but how do you assess which is the right fund for your portfolio? What are the criteria that one should look at? To help you navigate through this maze, we have Shweta Jain from Investography on board today. Also, do not forget to send us your portfolio queries on our WhatsApp number, which is 8657974571. You can also email us your queries on themoneyshow@etnow.tv. Good evening, Shweta, and welcome to the show. And let's begin taking our viewer queries. And first, I have with me Mr. R. Reddy from Hyderabad. Good evening, Mr. Reddy. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for sending us your questions, sir.
Yeah, good evening, very nice. So I have sent the question. I have got
Sure.
a diverse portfolio in mutual funds,
Mm-hmm.
the active funds, large mid cap,
Right.
small cap, and also infra. Like that, I have listed out, and a few index funds.
Sir, could you please tell us the name of the fund house also? Do you have the names of the fund house?
I have diverse, for example, contra fund. I have put SBI contra fund. In the case
Got
of
it.
infrastructure, it is HDFC infrastructure and Nippon
Okay.
power and infrastructure. And
Okay.
like that, in the case of index funds, Motilal is there, small and mid cap.
Okay.
And like that, diversified in different sectors. I have gone through.
All right. So in terms
what
of
is their
categories, we
performance.
have got the question, but
Yes.
you want to invest some more amount and you want to understand what category you should be looking at. Is that right?
Madam, about my whatever amount was there, about 90 to 92% of my amount I have invested. Another 78% I was just thinking thematic consumption opportunities and and another one healthcare.
Got it.
Whether in active
Got
funds,
it.
is it wise at this stage to invest in these funds? About 8% of my allocation.
Got it. Shweta.
Yeah, hi Kavita. Mr. Reddy, there is a lot of diversification that you've done, and there are a lot of sectoral and thematic funds that you have. Some of them, even if they're in the same theme, different fund houses may have different strategies and hence may perform differently. So since we don't have all the fund houses, all the scheme names, it's a little difficult. But I'll tell you, as a general rule, I don't really like sectoral and thematic funds for the simple reason that you need to time both entry and exit correctly for them. And sometimes they need more time horizon than 3 years. I know you mentioned 3 years for healthcare, etc. But there have been large amounts of periods where healthcare also has been dull. So I'm not really a fan of thematic funds for that reason, because then you have to constantly know, be, and also keep researching this. So it's really difficult for one person to keep a tab on all of this and more. So that's why I wouldn't recommend. I would recommend that you keep a simple strategy. You don't need to have schemes of all of these kinds in your portfolio. These are options that you have, of course, but by over diversifying, you're not giving a chance to any sector, any capitalization to perform. Ideally, it should be simple. Do a passive fund for large cap, because that's where you're seeing that index funds are performing better than your regular schemes. And small cap, I would prefer to give it to fund managers, because there they do have the advantage of choosing, they have advantage of research, and I do believe they still outperform the index. So I think the strategy needs to change a little bit, and too many schemes will only spoil your returns. So I would urge you to think about it.
All right, so these are few changes, Mr. Reddy, that Shweta has recommended. Is there anything else you want to ask her?
No, no, thank you. Thank you.
All the best, sir. We move on, and I have Mr. S.B. Sivakumar from Madurai on the phone line with me. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
I am fine, madam.
Thank you so much for sending us your questions, sir. And you have stopped your investment in Axis long-term equity, and you want to withdraw the money after your lock-in period is over, and you want to shift that money to Axis Equity Hybrid Fund.
Yes.
Okay. So you want to know if this move is right for you, and are you also open to some other AMC, or you want to stick to Axis itself?
After the lock-in period, I will move out of this Axis. That is not the issue, because this Axis long-term equity fund for the past couple of years, it is not performing well. And moreover, this equity hybrid fund is also not that much providing a good return. So I'm just, after the lock-in period is over, I'm just thinking of moving into other AMC, madam.
All right. Quick clarity that I need from you, Mr. Sivakumar. So Axis Long-Term Equity is an ELSS fund. You must be getting tax benefit. Now, do you want a same category recommendation, or you are open to a regular mutual fund on which you might not get the tax benefit as per 80C if you are invested as per the old tax regime?
Right now, I'm having Mira as a tax saver fund and
Okay, you already have.
tax
Okay.
saver.
Sure. So Axis Long-Term Equity, were you doing an SIP or it's a lump sum investment?
No, I Axis long-term equity is a SIP mode only, and I stopped my SIP. And
Okay.
after the lock-in
So you have to
period,
make sure that every SIP completes 3 years. You have to make sure that every SIP of yours has to complete 3 years. Okay. So only then you will be
yes.
able to withdraw. So whatever is done with 3 years, that you can withdraw. But then, yeah, let's move on. What will be your time horizon, sir, for this particular investment in equity?
My time horizon is 10 years, not less than 10 years.
Okay, at least 10 years. All right. So, Shweta, I tried getting some clarity for you. Please guide him.
Yeah, thanks, Kavita. Mr. Shivkumar, I think you can move out of Axis as a fund house as well, and you can diversify these funds into a couple of schemes. So I would like that you do UTI Nifty 50. So that's your passive fund. And 10 years is a great time horizon. You don't need to do a hybrid fund for that. You can stick to equity. So UTI Nifty 50 is a great fund that you can invest in. And with it, you can do a combination with a PPFAS FlexiCap fund. If you don't like the international exposure which it has, then you can look at a Kotak Emerging Equity fund if that's something that you like, a little bit of mid cap, large, small cap combination if you would like. I think a combination of two of these, whichever you would prefer, would be a good addition to the portfolio.
Sir, anything else you want to ask Shweta?
Another one point is I am also investing in Tata Digital Fund.
Okay,
for
sir.
the last couple of years is not that much great, but I am getting some sort of result right now. But I should. My horizon of period is more than 7 years. So if I can
All right.
continue the my SIP there, or I'll
So it's a sector fund. So it's a sector fund, and every sector, they have their own cycle. So if you are an investor in share market, you really have to understand these kind of nitty-gritties and the way the market also moves. So there'll be times when you will see bumper returns, and you might be tempted to maybe put in more money or even withdraw money. And when definitely the fund is not performing, you will be like given up hopes, and you might just want to come out of it. But then, as you rightly mentioned, your time horizon is almost 5 to 7 years. So looking at the downturn or the non-performance now, Shweta, should he be coming out of this fund, considering he invested with a very basic mindset of staying invested for long?
I think since he's seen a period of underperformance, I think he should wait it out. I think that would be the smart move right now, because otherwise we would exit now and he would see that this is the gains that he missed out on. Since he's seen periods of non-performance, I think it's better for him to stick it out for the next couple of years here.
All right. All the best, sir, for your portfolio and the kind of changes Shweta has also recommended. Please try and do them in your portfolio. We move on. Shweta, next question is from Pradeep Jha. It's a question via email, and he's been an investor in mutual funds since 2007, and he wants to know about Nippon Small Cap, SBI Small Cap, ICICI Emerging Fund, HSBC Small Cap. He's been investing in these funds maybe, and total SIP amount is 8,000. Daily SIP 100 in Small Cap, and Nippon Large Cap Fund is what is he saying.
Okay, so he has too much in small cap. I think that's the main takeaway for me. He should, even if its time horizon is 20 years, he should be making sure that he has good diversification. Otherwise, the portfolio will see huge bouts of volatility and underperformance at times, and there's nothing to sort of give it that cushion. So I would recommend that he invests in an index fund like a UTI Nifty 50 or a DSP Nifty 50. So that would give his portfolio that cushion, and that should be the core portfolio. Actually, small cap shouldn't be the core portfolio for him. The other thing that I noticed is he's doing a daily SIP, which is really not needed. He can do a monthly SIP in the scheme as well.
We move on to our last question of the day, Shweta. It's from Daksh Singhal. He's 22 years old, and he's been doing SIP in Mira Asset Mid Cap Fund 2,000, HDFC Small Cap 2,000, Quant Small Cap 1,000 rupees, and from last 1 year, rupees 1,000, he's been increasing after every 6 months in his overall SIP amount. So how can he achieve 1 crore with what kind of investment amount and how many years?
So he wants to get to 1 crore. So if he wants to get to 1 crore in years, he will have to target 45,000 rupees monthly SIP. So that's how he can get there in that time. With the rate at which he's going, he would probably take 15 to 20 years because he would continuously need to keep increasing his investment. The other thing that I see is that, again, there's a lot of mid and small cap. I think he's seen the performance in the last couple of months and started. So I would definitely recommend that he does take a longer term horizon and not, just stick to small cap. He also adds on passive funds, large cap funds to make sure that this portfolio is adequately diversified. So a UTI Nifty 50 or a PPFS Flexi Cap would be a great addition to this portfolio. If he doesn't want to continue with so many schemes, he can cut down the HDFC Small Cap Fund here and instead do that. And with every additional SIP, I don't think he needs to keep increasing the number of schemes. He can increase amounts in some of these.
All right, so that's the portfolio suggestions or recommendation for Daksh. And with that, thank you so much, Shweta, for being on the show and helping our viewers with their mutual fund portfolio queries. And time to sign off, but I'm going to leave you with our WhatsApp number and email ID where we keep waiting for your queries. 865-797-4571. That's the WhatsApp number. The Money Show at ET.TV's email ID where you need to send us your mutual fund portfolio queries. Thank you so much for watching. Goodbye.